Welcome to What's on Your Bookshelf, a life and leadership podcast where we live out loud the pages of the books that are on our shelves, with your host, Denise Russo and Sam Powell.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of What's on Your Bookshelf. My name is Denise Russo. I'm here with my friend Sam Powell. You are joining us for our series on The Joy at Work, which is a book that was written by Marie Kondo. Today we are on chapter 4, and we'll be talking about tidying up our digital work. So we're reading a physical copy of a book, but we're going to be talking about tidying up the things that take up the space in our computers. Sam, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. And this chapter is interesting because this book is written by Marie Kondo and Scott Sonenshein. And this is the first chapter that's his that he wrote because she was on the other pieces of it. So, it's interesting to kind of switch into his expertise and into the other space of this. But I think you had mentioned last week you weren't looking forward to this exercise because I think about how much digital stuff I have. I just increase storage, cloud storage and things like that instead of cleaning anything up. And in reality, it really does need tidied. There's so much. I think about photos, especially. Like I take out so many photos. I'm very grateful at a lot of different times that I do take so many photos, but I also take a lot of really bad photos, right? And I just never delete them, right? The blurry ones, the ones you'll never use or look at, and it's like, there's gotta be some cleanup here because eventually, if I have to keep up at this pace, by the time my kids are out of the house, I'll never be able to pull together like a senior scrapbook because there'll be too many files to go through. Maybe AI will be good at going through things at that point, but it's going to be a mess. And emails, and it's terrible.
It's hard because you have this feeling towards a thing, but it doesn't mean your kids will. I'll get like a real life example that's not digital, it's physical, is my mom has probably 40 at least photo albums. And my brother and I were looking through them recently, and we were trying to separate, like, okay, would you want this picture or is this picture I would want? My mom must have had like 10 copies of each of the pictures because I think my mom was always like trying to be fair. So, well, if I have this picture, there has to be one for you, one for your brother, one for your kids, one for his kids, just in case everybody wants a copy of it. So we've got an overabundance of copies of the pictures and these books. However, the photos that are in my phone for sure far outweigh the number of the photos that my mom has. And some of them are like dumb things, right? Like a screenshot of a nice quote, or you said, maybe I took a bad picture and then I took another picture to not make it look bad, but I didn't delete the bad picture.
Yeah.
And then there's the idea of email. And so this is the part for me in this chapter that's so daunting because this guy, I don't know if he worked for himself, but when you work for somebody else's priorities, it's really hard to follow his advice. Like he says things like, don't work on more than 10 projects and then subcategorize your emails into these folders. And so you should think about what you need to save with this one system, but sometimes we are hostage to other people's systems.
Yeah, I remember I worked in customer support for a long time and in customer support leadership. So I would get alerts about every critical incident, everything that was happening. Like our systems were email based because they were the fastest thing. We're all on email all day long. And so critical issue pops up. The amount of emails I would get in a day was just outrageous. And I went on maternity leave for 6 months, 2 different times. And the second time I was like a senior director and running like a large team with a lot of people. And when I came back, it was hundreds of thousands of emails that had come through in that time. And I knew that was going to happen. And so I set up so many rules and like systems in my inbox so that they would go places. Like any like and I've labeled them all as like maternity rules so that when I came back I could delete them, right? Because they were things that like when I'm in the office I need, when I'm out for 6 months I don't. I don't need to know a single thing about a critical issue that happened 6 months ago, but I
Yeah.
do need to know about the one happening today. And so I had all these rules that's like if it were these things they went away, they got deleted because I didn't need them. I didn't need to think about them, and I didn't even need to process them because they were just gone. And so I just let that go. And it was one of the best things I did because when I came back, it wasn't processing
Mm.
literally hundreds of thousands of emails. It was, okay, these are just the ones that came that bypassed my filters. And did
Mhm.
it take me a little while to do it? Yeah, like a couple days to get through everything, but like it took me just a couple days. Like by the time my first full week went through, like I was back down to, something good. And so it's that process I think of like when you're at the mercy of someone else's
Mhm.
systems and alerts and emails and all this sort of stuff. Yeah, you've got to maybe approach this a little bit differently.
Yeah. I'm working on a project with a company right now, and their process is that your emails automatically get deleted in 30 days. And I was like, whoa,
You're like, I need to keep them all.
I need all of them. And so, but then there's something freeing about that. Like, if you can't take action on this in 30 days, are you ever going to? Which goes back to the example I gave you about one of my former managers who
Yeah.
would not leave if his inbox had anything in it. And this was not a person that I think like stayed up to 1 a.m. reading emails. His process was pretty much like, if you really need me, then something about your email needs to very quickly say, I really need you to read this and either be aware of something or take action on it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, delete.
Mhm.
And I mean, his was cold, hard, cold. Okay, I don't think I could do it as good as he did it. But this new process with this company that I'm working with has given me a little bit of anxiety, but it also is somewhat freeing. And Marie Kondo says it in here that email interferes with getting work done. And Sam, I
Yeah.
used to work with the CEO of a company, and it was before our last company together acquired said company. And this CEO was really amazing. And he was kind of like a cutthroat, no holds barred, said it like it is kind of a guy. And I think he was one day probably inundated with way too many emails that could have been a quick phone call or walk past his desk type of a thing. So he had an emergency all hands. I'll never forget it. We all got on the phone, like you're talking 8,000 employees, I think, or so at that time. And he basically just lit into everybody and said, for this rest of this week, if I find out anybody sends an email before 5 o'clock in the afternoon, or before Friday, I'm going to call you personally. And so at first, everybody was so scared, like, oh my gosh, well, I really need to ask Sam this question or whatever. But we were realizing in this whole process of going through that week was how many emails did I have that said RE forward, 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 CC this, you're
Mhm.
BCC'd on this. You have to figure out like 12 layers deep. Do I even really need to be on
Mhm.
this message? And so it was a really great exercise in figuring out, like, if you're going to send an email, why not wait till the end of your day? Because what if you need to say something else? Email is not intended to be like a back and forth conversation.
Right. Right. And I think that that's the issue, right? Is because so many things are so easy in this digital space, right? To save, to send, that we lean into it so much more than we should, right? And like I mean, I've definitely been through phases in my life where I'm like, I don't want to pick up the phone and call somebody.
Mhm.
But like I've come completely full circle on it. And I'm like, if I could call someone and connect with them better, right? Have a better conversation, but also get there faster. Like let's just run through these details instead of exchanging these ridiculous text messages. Like I'm
Yes.
gonna do that now because it makes a lot more sense. And I'm inundated with notifications, right? Like so many texts, so many messenger messages in every single type of, space that I could get it in between, Meta stuff and LinkedIn and, you
Yeah.
name it, I get a message on something and it's like, it gets to the point where it's overwhelming and it's like,
Yes.
I don't want to touch this. It makes me not happy. It like kills all the
Yes.
joy in my life, right? And it's like, but if I get a phone call from somebody now, I'm like, oh, I'll never pick up the phone. But there's something to that, like idea of emails the last resort. It's only the end of the day that I can say there was no other path but this message that needed to happen. And I think that is a good thing because it's building up skills in yourself, right? It's building up communication. It's building up things that we really need to live in a more connected space.
I'm going to say something super unfavorable. I strongly dislike Slack.
Mm,
Slack is an interesting tool that a lot of people love because you can instantly get a message to people. What I have found is that people use it as a dumping ground for everything that would be like, I'm going to send you a message that I would normally text you or Instagram you or email you or walk by your desk and say to you, or in other ways tell you what I did last weekend and it has nothing to do with work. And I'm finding that it is really, really good for what we know from human behavior, that a majority of people's personality style does sit in that style of needing connection with people.
mhm.
But then there is the minority. And in that minority is where I sit, which is the people that get overwhelmed and bombarded with overconnection and the stimulus of too much popping up and zinging and zinging. Like I was in a meeting today and I have notifications on my watch, notifications on my laptop, which I had in the meeting. And I've been trying out this new tool called Notability where I can write on my iPad because I'm using up way too much paper taking notes. And that was dinging. And every 2 seconds, 5 different things were binging and dinging,
Mhm.
and none of them were important. I think there was like, I don't know if it was last year, but there was other episodes ago where you had even talked about pausing notifications on things on your phone or
Oh yeah,
setting timers.
I do a lot of that.
Yeah, and that has helped you maybe control your time.
Yeah, it really has. It really has because it's just constant distraction and constant, I think, stress too for me, right? Like I'm somebody that does like things clean and clear of clutter, right? Like I don't like it when the little symbol, the app on your phone says, 100 or, 2 or 1 or any of that. Like that drives me crazy because it makes me feel like there's something to be done that needs done. And most of it is like a ridiculous notification, right? It's like such and such, posted about their cat. And it's like, okay, that's nice, but like I don't need to know about that unless
Right.
I go seek it out, right? And so yeah, I have all I have all notifications turned off on social media, except for LinkedIn because I, run a business through there. But other than that, like everything is off. And I have found that I have a lot more peace with my notifications. And even like like I have my phone that will turn off all notifications except for like text message, phone calls, like urgent things that would need to come through if somebody needs to call me because we don't have a house phone. Um, and I find that like that really helps me at night to relax is like
Yeah.
all those things that I, like the emails that I'm like, I will get to it. I don't need to do it now. I don't even need to do it today, but I need to get to it.
Yeah.
That all disappears for a little bit and it's nice. And I think that, when we think about that, it's like, well, the question really becomes is like, how do you process? And I think that that's what this chapter is getting at is like, how do you process things in a more regular way that work for you
Mhm.
so that things just don't sit out there lingering, right? You don't have, a documents file on your computer that's, thousands, you'll never, ever, ever be able to do. It's like, how do you categorize in a very simple way? How do you ruthlessly cut things that you really aren't ever going to need? And how do you discern the difference?
Here's the way that she does it. She says, do I need to keep this email to get my job done in the future? Sometimes we do need to revisit an email exchange or need documentation of a conversation for a future event. Then she says, will reading this email again provide knowledge inspiration, or motivation for future work? And does the email spark joy? And then she basically says, if no, delete.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely right. And that's it. Like how many things do we keep just because we keep them? Like I know I started out that way. I had folders for every customer that my team supported, and that got into the hundreds and hundreds of folders. And I would try to organize things in this way. And then I got to the point where I'm like, customers are in here. And then it was like, I'm only keeping the things that like might come back up, right? Like somebody
Right.
escalated something to me and like I might need a record of it type of a thing. Or, hey, this is information on like a process that we're going to need. And I got to the point that as time went on in my corporate career, I became a lot more ruthless and just a lot more simplified in the structure itself. I did have very complex, like categorize every little tiny thing, and that burns you out and becomes not useful. And
Mhm.
technology's come a long way. When I started, you couldn't search through all your emails. You had to like go manually find stuff. Now you can, and so it's a lot easier. But it's that what's the simplest way for you from point A to B with your digital stuff? And how do you really ruthlessly discern, what you need? And I think these categories are great, right? It's really good stuff on like, okay, do I need this to make things happen? And I love that you get to keep joy in emails too, because I have emails from a long time ago that are just joyful, right? They're funny, they're, just something that like really spark something great. And so, yeah, I get to keep it and I have a little folder of, funny things, funny pictures, funny, whatever's that we had from back in the day.
I think an interesting segue that she makes here is about the dangers of cell phones. So she doesn't go into tons of detail about those dangers, but we know from a lot of science that having these cell phones close to our head is likely not very healthy. And so she mentioned when she wrote this book, and this book is not a brand new book, so I'm sure this fact is probably even more elevated than the way she wrote it. But she said the average person uses a smartphone 85 times a day, adding up to more than 5 hours. My suspicion is, especially for people that are attached to their phones because of their jobs and they're always on, that it's more than that.
Yeah.
And she says many apps are specifically built to be addictive. And we know this also, right? There's been even like
Lawsuits
Congress
about
having
it.
meetings,
Yeah.
lawsuits about
Uh-huh.
the addictions to young people for using apps because they're also feeding their egos and other things that they're getting from these different
Yeah.
devices. And so she basically says here's something shocking: the mere presence of a smartphone can make you perform poorly, even if it's sitting silenced on your desk. And then she goes on to talk about an experiment that was done where researchers instructed people to put their phones in one of three places: on their desk, in a bag, or in another room, and then to complete the same tasks they would have done on doing some math or memory tests. And in the end of the research, she found something surprising: that the more accessible the smartphone was, meaning that it was sitting on the desk in front of them, the worse the people did in math and memory tests. And so it actually made their performance worse by having it right there. I was in a meeting today, and like I told you, I was dinging and binging all over the place. 99% of the people in the room, Sam, it was a conference room meeting, had their laptops and they're typing away feverishly. So I didn't. I was kind of sitting because I like to listen in the meetings. And I was looking around and I was starting to think to myself, half review people in this room are not listening at all because you
Yeah.
are trying to process what you're typing in your note while you're listening. And the other half of you are typing things that have nothing to do with this meeting because you're multitasking.
Yeah. And you didn't even, and like a lot of times you don't even mean to multitask, right? Like that notification pops up and you're like, oh,
Let me
and whether
answer
you
that real
mean to or
quick.
not, you've already clicked on it, right? It goes back to like that atomic habit. Like I see it and I do it
Yeah.
automatically. And like that's the thing. And like that you really have to break those things. And yeah, this book was published in 2020, it looks like. And so this
Okay.
doesn't account for all the research of the last 6 years. And there's been a lot on like the distraction, the algorithmic addiction, like all of the stuff that is released about. I just had a whole conversation with this about somebody over the weekend because my son's at the age where it's like people have cell phones and everybody's sort of like every family's got different rules on it as to if they're allowed to have one or not. what they're allowed to have access to, what they're not, all that sort of stuff. And my son, of course, being the tween that he is like, when do I get social media? And I was like, when you're 25, have fun. And he's like, what? And I'm like, obviously, like, that's unrealistic, but like, not anytime soon. It's not good for you. And then it's like, I can't even explain to him why it's not good for him because he's just too young to really fully comprehend. And at this point, like most of us adults don't really understand how bad this is for us and what that like clutter that like the digital space of a cell phone really creates in our daily lives.
I agree with you. I really think that the lesson I took away from this chapter is that it's going to be an investment of time to clean this stuff up. In fact, next week we're going to be talking about decluttering our time, which is a really big favorite topic for me. I've been trying for years, which is sad to say because it's kind of like an opposite, but about how to maximize time by getting rid of the things that waste our time. And so anyway, I think this exercise to do this though is going to be a spend of time and probably an investment of time to be able to truly clean up things. Like I probably have apps I downloaded for one thing or another in the moment of needing it that I don't need it anymore.
Yeah.
And there are emails I absolutely don't need to read anymore. There are like LinkedIn has started to become for me a little bit annoying even, Sam, because I get so much junk mail in my LinkedIn. It's like
Yeah, I
when
do
you go
too.
to the real mailbox and you think how many trees were killed for all these things that didn't need to be mailed to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. And especially like because you and I, do entrepreneurial adventures and things like that too. Like we get hit with a lot of LinkedIn clutter messages
Yes.
and things
How do
like
you
that.
feel
Yeah.
about like the ones that you get and they're like, look, this is my fifth message to you, and if I'm bothering you, just let me know. I'm like, well, if I didn't answer the first 5 times.
Yeah. Well, and at this point, like I, like because I own a business, I do LinkedIn like connections and conversations and things like that. And so like for me now I can recognize what's automatic, like what's some automated system they have set up about,
Yes.
outreach and things like that. And some of them sound really real, right? They sound
Yeah.
like the person wrote it. But there's always like tells on stuff. But yeah, it's when I get that like fifth message that's like, hey, just checking back in. It's like, no, you're not.
You're
You're
not.
this is some like automated thing where you're like trying to get me to sell and buy
This,
whatever it
yes.
is.
This
Yeah, and
one
it like
person,
and that clutter, like that kind of stuff, right? It's
yes,
that in multiply times every
everywhere.
app, everything that you have, and like that mental clutter that creates for you, that attention
Yeah.
clutter, just the energy clutter that it creates is huge. And so it's how do you pull that back? What would that really look like? What do you really, really need? What would a joyful relationship with the technology that you use at work and in
Yeah.
life too, like really look like? And I think, like you said, it's an investment in time
Yeah.
to do this. It will take you a lot, especially if you go clean up all your emails and all your files on your computer. That's going to take you a minute.
Yes.
Um, but cleaning up your phone, like same thing is going to take you a minute, but I do think it's worth it. Like this is one thing that's like, this will be hard, but absolutely worthwhile.
This doesn't talk about it in the book because of when this book was written, but one of the things that I would even think is probably something that we should explore is cleaning up your friend lists, whether it's LinkedIn,
Like
Instagram,
connection
TikTok,
list, yeah.
Twitter, connection lists, right?
Honestly, there's a safety factor in that too,
Mhm.
right? Like who's got access to the things that you post. And like LinkedIn is probably one thing, but like I think about Facebook, like I've had Facebook since it literally came out.
Yeah.
And so it's yeah, there are people on there that's like, yeah, maybe you shouldn't have these connections at this point. And yeah, there's probably an aspect of cleaning that up, of being able to see the things from the people that you want when when
Mhm.
you can, or when the
And
algorithm allows you.
and use them for the things you need to use them for. Like, for example, I have this message. Sorry if there, I don't know if that ring just came in. Vincent's calling me. So if it rings again, he's trying to call me, which is somebody important for me
Hey,
to talk
Vincent.
to. If it rings a third time, then I'll see if I answer it. But um, I got this message on LinkedIn, and the guy said, Oh, I was really interested in your last episode of What's on Your Bookshelf, and I'd really love to talk to you about the insurance business. And I was like, first of all, we know the data of who's listening to our episodes,
And
of
it's
which
not
you are
you.
one. You didn't say anything about our post about the episode, nor did you show up in our research on who did listen to the episode. And I'm really not necessarily interested in talking to you about your insurance company.
Uh-huh.
So, like those things where you're saying it's either AI or it's some sort of a process that they've gone through to try to reach out to strangers about building their own business, that to me, I'm never going to buy something from you if it's kind of like that. It's so used car salesy to me.
Yeah, exactly. It's like he took the classic thing of like find a connection point
Yes.
and then then offer. And it's like that's yeah,
Yeah.
I get those messages. I get messages like that all the time. It's just like, what are we doing here? Like, and it becomes so messy. And that messiness really, I think, takes away from the joy of our experience with, with the app. Like LinkedIn can be a joyful thing. Social media can be a joyful thing, right? When it's based on connection, when you're learning something, there can be spaces to it, but you've got to own it and lead it, right? This is like my whole thing is self-leadership, right? Really comes down to like, how are you leading yourself and how are you doing that? And like, no one in the digital space is ever going to help you do that. No app will ever help you spend less time on the app
Yeah.
ever. Like that's
Ever.
just that's counterproductive to their goals. And so you have to be the person that draws the limits, that figures out the things, that figures out how to clean up the clutter and the lists and the filters and the all of that kind of stuff because it's your life, it's your time that you're spending, it's your energy and effort and attention that you're spending. And where do you want that to be, right? You've got to decide what you want that to look like and then go take the things and set up the system that works for you.
Life is so short, Sam. We talk about this often off microphone, and the moments that you waste, spend, or invest, and I know we'll go deeper into this next week when we're talking about cleaning up our time, it really matters. And so if you do put some time into this exercise in order to give you back time that matters the most, it is going to be worth it. I know it's something I
Mhm.
have to do, and I'm grateful for times I'm captive, like on a really long plane ride where there is nothing else to do except delete emails. But we don't always find and make that time to do those types of things. So I hope that between now and next week, we all listening and being here today can find the time to get rid of the paper clutter, the pen clutter from last week, and then this week, all the digital clutter, because next
Mhm.
week we are really going to dig into what's your time worth.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that it's a good exercise. And I'll hopefully go through a couple of these exercises in real life before we move on to that. Because yeah, I think that you've got to do that to be able to dig into, what do I want that time to look like? What's taking up the things that don't need to be.
Absolutely. Well, friends, for listening, thank you. If you don't have a copy of this book, we'll have links in our show notes somewhere where you can get a copy of the book because I know it's on sale right now. And you don't have to have the book to listen to our episodes or any of our episodes or series. It just helps you to dive deeper for yourself. But remember, if you put the book on your shelf, don't let it just sit there because then it does become dusty and clutter. This is meant to be lived out loud. And so thanks for living it out loud with us today. My name's Denise Russo, and on behalf of my friend Sam Powell, this has been another episode of What's on Your Bookshelf.